Hey y'all, it's Kim Hosey here. Thanks again for joining us for today's Shiloh Shoutout. So in preparation for the museum's upcoming virtual Cabin Fever Reliever Collectors Day event, we are going to explore some of the Education Department's collections. So the museum has a variety of loan boxes filled with different artifacts and resources relating to the history and culture of the Arkansas Ozarks. So for example, here are some items found within the museum's historic transportation loan box. And we're going to be talking about these items a little bit today. So the first item we're going to be talking about today is something called a clinker. So these were related to burning coal or the railroad industry. The first railroad to come through Northwest Arkansas was in 1881. At this time, one of the main sources of fuel for steam-powered trains was coal. A clinker is a hard leftover material created from the process of burning coal. Certain elements within coal do not burn. When these non-burning elements interact and fuse together with remaining materials, a clinker will eventually form. The next item we are going to talk about are these railroad spikes. Have y'all ever seen railroad spikes before? They're kind of like a large nail used to construct railroads. Railroad spikes come in different shapes and sizes depending on what they are used for. These spikes are in the shape of an L, which help them stay in place once they have been nailed down. Next item we're going to talk about is a railroad lantern. Have y'all ever seen one of these before? Railroad lanterns were used as a source of light in order to help people see what they were doing while working on the railroads, as well as a way for trainmen to communicate through the use of various lantern signals. This lantern was fueled by kerosene and likely dates to the 1900 through 1920s time period. So this right here is called a horseshoe. I'm sure many of you all have seen a horseshoe before. Horseshoes are placed onto the hooves of horses in order to protect their feet and prevent cracking in the hooves when riding on hard surfaces or for long periods of time. Toe caulks are similar to sports cleats. The studs of the cleats help create traction on the ground surface to prevent sliding, similar to toe caulks once placed on the toe or heel of a horseshoe. So maybe y'all would like to take a guess at what form of transportation this is. I'll give you a couple of seconds to guess. This is a miniature replica of it, not life size. But this is a miniature replica of a covered wagon. So it's basically, as the title seems, it is a wagon that is covered. Covered wagons were an early form of animal-powered transportation used largely throughout the 1700s and 1800s by settlers and pioneers throughout the United States or people who were settling or moving to a different area of the country. People traveled in covered wagons as well as used the wagons to carry their belongings. Early roads were not as easy to travel on as the roads we commonly use today. So what about this one right here? What do you all think this form of transportation is? Kind of looks similar to the covered wagon. It's being pulled by a horse, so being pulled by an animal, similar to the covered wagon was. This is a die-cast replica of a stagecoach. Stagecoaches were another form of historic transportation used to carry people, goods, and mail from one place to another. Stagecoaches were powered by a team of horses or mules, depending on the conditions of the roads and length of the routes. Stagecoach stations were located along lengthy stagecoach routes in order to allow stagecoach drivers and passengers a space to temporarily rest or to switch mules and horses out, with well-rested ones located at the current station. Butterfield's famous Overland Mail Company stagecoach route ran from 1858 to 1861 and went from St. Louis, Missouri to San Francisco, California, passing through multiple locations in northwest Arkansas. Today, you can go to the Pea Ridge National Military Park and the Lake Fayetteville Trail to see some of the same roads Butterfield stagecoaches pass through. This large artifact, with all these springs and metal pieces, as you could probably tell, is a bicycle seat. Bicycles have become a popular form of transportation by the late 1800s. The desire for better roads for cycling led to the Good Roads movement. The Arkansas State branch of the National Good Roads movement formed by 1896. The push for better roads continued into the 1900s as the Good Roads movement continued to grow, as well as the production and use of automobiles. So thank you so much for joining us for today's Shiloh Shoutout. I hope you learned some new things about historic transportation in Arkansas. If you'd like to see the full list of loan boxes available at the museum, as well as the rest of the resources included within the Historic Transportation Loan Box, check out the link in the video description. Thanks again for watching, y'all.